What's going on, guys? Gaston right here. So into this video, we're going to be talking about the Leica Q3 43mm, the brand new Leica Q3 camera, which is a camera that offers a very unique focal length. So in this video, we're going to be talking about this camera, how the 43mm compares versus the 28. Some of the things are going to be different in this camera. And also, I'm going to help you decide whether the 28 or the 43 may be the camera that you're looking for. I'm also going to be spicing this video with a lot of images that I capture during my time with the camera, so you can see the image quality getting from this amazing 43mm Summicron Apple lens. So let's go. Welcome back, guys. Gaston right here. So today we are going to be talking about the brand new Leica 43mm, and this video has finally a sponsor, which is my own company, Crown. And as you guys can see, I actually designed a strap for this camera, and this one is called the 43 strap, you know, because it's the same gray as the color of the leatherette of the camera. So if you're interested to see some of the straps that I make them in rub, leather, wrist strap, and many other options, link is going to be down in the description. So let's actually dive in with this review. So I've been shooting with the Leica Q3 43 since the first day this camera was announced, and I actually picked up this camera at Leica New York, and thanks to my friends there for letting me have a camera at the time of the launch. So I've been shooting with this camera nonstop, and you guys know that I have done some videos here in the channel about the Leica Q3 28mm. And in one of my latest videos, I consider the Leica Q3 28mm, you know, for my personal taste of shooting, one of the best street photography cameras that you can get with autofocus. Now, that is going to be because Leica Q bodies, they feature a lens that reminisce the construction of a manual M lens. And as you can see, it is very similar to, you know, for example, I have right here my M11 monochrome with an Apple 35mm. 35 is my favorite focal length, you know, for street photography. But take a look at the construction of this lens, you know, all the distance scales there, the tab at the bottom, and now compare it with a Q lens. This one is the 43. And we have a very similar design. The tab it is right there. And we have the distance scale, aperture ring, and focus ring. So these cameras, for that reason alone, are going to be really easy to shoot whether you want to shoot in autofocus or zone focus. I think the Leica Q3 28mm is, for me, one of the best options when it comes to autofocus, manual focus, street photography. Now, let's talk about the Leica Q3 43. How is, you know, that camera different, and what do I feel about 43mm when I say that 35mm is my ideal focal length? The difference is going to be obvious. You know, 28 is going to be a lot wider and 43 is going to be tighter. So the 43mm lens, you know, I have discovered that I can actually get a similar look of my 35mm, meaning composition wise, by simply approaching the scene a little bit further. And I gotta mention this because I tend to be very close to the action when I do street photography. And with this lens, you know, first when I got this camera, you know, I try to do that. I try to just to like come as close, and then realizing that of course 43mm is gonna give me a tighter shot. So I started kind of like setting my brain to back off a lot more just to get a similar composition. Now, from a 35mm and a 43, there are going to be differences. One is going to be the distortion of the 35 versus the 43, that's tighter. And the other thing is going to be the compression, you know, and the background separation that you can get when shooting wide open. Now, for that reason alone, I do love the 43mm a lot for when it comes to portrait photography. And that is something that I tend to do a lot when I'm on the street, you know, taking pictures of random people, and I like to shoot wide open. And one of the things that you're gonna notice is that, of course, you know, at 43mm, you are gonna get greater compression and background separation. And as you can see on some of the images that I'm gonna be showing here in this video, this one right here, you can see the blurry background that you can get when shooting wide open at, you know, f2. Now we gotta talk about minimum focusing distance in this camera as well. And as you can see, the minimum focusing distance of this lens is going to be 0.6 meters. Now, 0.6 meter is more of kind of like a rangefinder limitation when it comes to minimum focusing distance, but this camera is also gonna have, just like a Q3, a macro mode. Now, when you engage on the macro mode, which you activate by twisting that ring, you are gonna be able to go all the way to 0.27 meters, which is really, really close. Now, in comparison with the Leica Q3 20 millimeters, if you see, well, first of all, you're gonna have a 0.3 minimum focusing distance before you enter into the macro mode. And when you go in the macro mode, you are going to get a minimum focusing distance of 0.17 meters. Now there's a difference, right? So this one can actually come a lot closer at 0.17 meters versus 0.27 meters. But with the 20 millimeters, if you get that close, you are going to be distorting so much that I've never actually shot that close with the 20 millimeters. Whereas with a 43 millimeter, it becomes a much more usable focal length, even for macro photography. So I think that this is where this camera start appealing more for someone that wants to shoot portrait or, get into product or macro photography. Definitely the 43 millimeters, in my opinion, is going to be a better option. But even not engaging in the micro mode, when you want to take portraits, I'm never gonna need to come, closer than 0.6 meters. And for that reason alone, macro mode is something that I may use very sparingly. Maybe if I want to take pictures of some of my straps, for the website, which by the way is coming up right now. And, I've been using it exactly for that. And it works really, really good. Now we gotta talk about autofocus, because on the 20 millimeters, I think the Leica Q3 has a very good autofocus. It's not gonna be blazing fast as something that you may find from these Sony cameras that are filming me right now. But the autofocus of the Leica Q3 20 millimeter and the 43 is really good. And Leica has also included some of the other options that you can see right over here. You have various modes to choose from. You have also animal and face detection and face with pH, and it performs really good, but it's gonna perform better in very well lit situations and lower pace environments. So I've been using this camera so much for street photography with its zone focus method. So once again, one of the reasons why I like the Q line so much, because I can treat it like my Leica M11, for example, with an M lens. Now, most of the content that I've been doing is black and white. Most of my photos are black and white. And for that reason alone, one of the things that I want to show you guys is how I set up my camera for black and white street photography. Now, the Leica Q3 43, of course, is a color sensor camera. But as you can see right now, my screen is in black and white. You go under JPEG settings like so. Select that, and then right there you can choose the film style, which is this one right over here, the black and white high contrast. So what that's gonna do, first of all, it's gonna turn your screen into a black and white previewing, and it's also gonna record all the JPEGs that you shoot if you choose to shoot JPEGs in the high contrast black and white. Now there's another thing that we wanna talk about in this camera, and something that I don't use in my Leica Q3 20 millimeters, but I've been actually playing with it. And it's going to be the different crop modes that you have right here. And I have set up this top button right here to actually, allow me to toggle from, from the different crop modes. Now, that is not gonna crop your DNG, but what it's going to do is gonna crop your JPEGs, and I believe that also it's gonna build in the metadata for the crop tool in, in the DNG. So when you go in Lightroom and you select the crop tool, you may have automatically that tool size to whatever, crop factor or aspect ratio that you set up by, simulating those different focal length, which of course, the depth of field doesn't change, but it allows you to crop the image right in camera. Now let's talk about the ergonomics of this camera, because again, if you're familiar with the Leica Q3 20 millimeter, it's gonna have the same ergonomic. These cameras are really light, a lot lighter than my Leica M11 monochrome or any of the M11 cameras. So this camera is actually very light. Another reason why I love this camera for walking around with it, doing street photography, it doesn't bother me at all.